What's up? What's up?
What's happening? We are back, a day delayed after Labor Day and after the Dutch GP at Zandvoort, where Max, no shock, took another one.
And it wasn't particularly close.
Yeah, not really.
Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, pace-wise, it wasn't. Couple things there at the end kind of bunched up and lessened that gap that it would have been. But as far as pace goes, yeah, wasn't really close.
No, I mean, look, man. How about this? Before we even jump into this rabbit hole, let's just hit these whiskeys real quick.
Yep.
As there is no introduction needed.
A familiar face.
Bro, I'm doing like half a pour of this. And then shelving it because I'm tired of drinking rye for 4 weeks in a row.
Yep.
But y'all know the drill. This will be drank every time Ferrari has a little botch.
Yep.
All right.
So
1 second.
Yeah, I mean,
hang on 1 second.
Y'all already know what we're drinking, but just in case you haven't been with us or missed that one originally, anytime Ferrari has as one of their screw ups, we both opened a bottle of Pinhook, and we will be drinking it every time that happens. At the end of the season, we'll see what's left. So just to quickly run through them again, in case you didn't catch it the last few times we've drank it here. I've got a Pinhook 2022 High Proof. This one is named after Bourbondini horse. This one's a 116 proof, and it is quite delicious, even 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah, so I'm running the counterpart to that, the Pinhook High Proof Rye, 122 proof hard rye guy is the horse. And we'll have one little pour of that because I'm moving on to something else after this pour. Because I want to. And I don't feel like drinking rye, high proof rye all night.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna just do a pour out of this and then move on to something else.
But all right. Max Verstappen. Brett, a dude is unstoppable.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolute perfection from Red Bull. Everything that gets thrown at them, they handle it. They either have the strategy to handle it, they have the pace to handle it, a little bit of both. You know, I mean, it's just they've always in the right spot.
Yep. And real quick, just because we didn't go through it, do us a favor if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the page. Down at the bottom there's a QR code, and that'll take you to our link tree, where you can find our website, which has everywhere the podcast will be published, as well as links to our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, now a TikTok as well. Mm-hmm. So we're on the TikToks.
That's it.
Yep. Go ahead and use that code. Find us on there. Give us a like, follow. I don't know what to say about TikTok because I'm not really familiar with it. I don't know if there's like a like or follow thing, but give the videos a like for us.
Yeah, just follow along. It's just like everything else. Follow.
Yeah. I guess I need to learn it.
Yep.
Damn it, I'm gonna have to go download TikTok.
I know. It's not like the Chinese already don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah. Man, it's funny. Like you hear so many people talk about it, like with social media and whatever. Like, oh, I don't, or what is it? The freaking little Alexa thing. Oh, they're listening to you. They're listening to you.
They
Reach
are.
into your pocket. What's in there? I bet you one of these is in your pocket, right? And you're telling me you're worried about that.
I know.
They're
all listening.
Yeah, they are. I hope they enjoy the show.
It's blatantly obvious when you open your phone and you have ads for exactly what you were just talking about.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. But, and dude, we did a test of that one day at work. Like we all left our phones and we went elsewhere and talked about what we were going to talk about. Made sure it was nothing anybody had ever searched for, ever bought, anything like that, right? And we went back, and had our phones by us and we're talking about it. And then later that night we were texting like, all right, who got ads for it? Like how many of us did? And freaking all of us. Mm-hmm. All of us had ads for, I don't even remember what it was. It was years ago, but yeah, I mean, whatever. They're listening. I hope they're having fun listening. Enjoy the show. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say.
So, man,
anyway, back to F1.
Back to Max. I mean, this is essentially the Max Verstappen show.
Yes.
For, I don't know, pretty much since, where would you say? I guess Hungary on. Because Leclerc, what was right before Hungary? Was it Paul Ricard?
That was France.
And I mean, Leclerc was super competitive there. Yeah, he threw it in the wall, but I mean, he looked like he had the pace and the tire longevity to win that race. But ever since then, it has been absolutely the Max Verstappen show, and it's not even up for debate.
Yeah, and this train does not look like it has any signs of being stopped.
Well, what's interesting, man, is you're seeing their car really kind of level out in terms of, and I don't mean in terms of their development and I don't mean their plateauing. What I mean by level out is you're seeing the gap between the low downforce tracks and the high downforce tracks get closer.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's no longer this, they're really good at this one, but they're not at this one. They're just freaking good everywhere.
Just good everywhere. Yep. It doesn't really matter where it is.
Right.
They're going to be on it.
And on the flip side, Ferrari still got the pace. Because, we were kind of saying, we were briefly talking earlier, whether it's developments or not, if some of their updates hadn't really worked as planned, but the pace is there. And even in the race, in these last few, like Charles has had the pace in his first stint, and then something's happening at that point. Whether it's kind of like, you want to say it's tire issues, which they're definitely having some deg problems.
I mean, there's clearly some tire deg problems. That goes without saying.
But the weird thing is, like, as the race goes on, once they put new tires on, they're still not getting that peak performance out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is strange because, like, right out the gate in the race, they are. Like this past race in Zandvoort, Leclerc was hanging right there with Max until I want to say maybe 15 or so laps is when his tires started to take a real dive. And, and then Max really pulled that gap.
Yeah.
But, he was still, Max wasn't walking away from him. It was up until his tires died. He had to pace. But then as they put on new tires, it's like they never regained that pace, which is very strange.
It really is.
Even like when they go to softs.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's one thing if it's just the amount of pace lost by the tire compound, but it's not. It's way more than that.
Yeah, so I have no idea what's happening there, but it's very, very strange. I would. Whew, that one hit me. No warm-up pour tonight.
Nah, that's where you messed up.
Yeah, I didn't have time. But yeah, man, it's. I don't know what to think about it. It's very peculiar. And look, with Red Bull, look, it would have been hard for Checo to be anything but second at Spa. But man, he's fallen off big time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said,
look, he finished fifth in this one. That's only because of Carlos's penalty.
Yep. Like you said, the car that they brought to Spa, you could have had almost anybody in the grid in that car, and that car was still finishing second, 1 and 2. Outside of that, and we've talked about this previously, where he's just fallen off. He's not developing with the car, or the car is just developing away from him and he can't adapt, or, for whatever reason, he's just not there. Max keeps stretching that gap between him and Checo every weekend.
Yeah. I don't know what. We went into detail on some speculation on why, but it seems like it's getting worse and worse every week. So I don't know. I don't know what to think coming up. I'm sure next week at Monza it'll be, maybe another good showing in terms of result.
Oh yeah.
But he might still be 30 seconds off of Max.
I think with Monza, we can probably expect the same Red Bull car that we saw at Spa. Ferrari is bringing
Maybe not. Those are two, although
it's
those
two
are
very
very
high
different.
Speed, but very different
tracks.
Ferrari has said, though, that they are bringing a low downforce rear wing. Hey, Twan, what's up, man?
Yeah, well, that's yet to be seen. Let's, if that actually works or not.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe that helps them out a tremendous amount, because it seems like here lately they've been getting way too much heat into these rear tires. I think it's been a rear tire issue that they've been having in terms of DAG. And, maybe we'll see. I don't know. I really don't know what to think anymore in terms of that.
Yeah.
You can we could kind of follow a trend and a path on where they were going, and now it just kind of went to a place where that's impossible to do.
Yep.
So, I think I think Mercedes is going to have a rough weekend. I know a lot of people have been getting excited
real
that they're
excited.
back,
Yeah.
but I think they're going to be in. No, don't get me wrong. They're still going to be clear of everybody else. But I mean, look, man, when Lewis was behind Carlos, he was way faster than him when Carlos's tires died. And they would come around, and as soon as they hit that, like make it through that last turn and get on the power, Lewis couldn't get him.
Yep.
You know, even with DRS, he would start to make a little bit by the end, but not a whole lot.
Wasn't enough to really do anything with.
But like the thing is, he was starting, 0.6 behind.
Yeah.
And not really closing it. So like that's a problem. Like that should be concerning. Because like typically if you start like 0.9 just inside that DRS zone behind, maybe you don't see him close up as much if you're not in a Red Bull.
Yeah.
But
anything but a Red Bull.
Typically you'll see them pull at least a few tenths. And he was starting 0.6 back and not able to walk it back at all. I mean, Carlos would just hold that gap strong. And to me, that just screams trouble for Monza.
Yeah, at such a high-speed track like that, absolutely. I mean, we talked earlier about with the Red Bull, how they're not really being any deficiency with them based on a certain track layout. But it's kind of looking a little bit more the opposite with Mercedes. They're much more track dependent. Zandvoort was a good showing for them. But yeah, as just stated on that front straight with the DRS, they've still got their shortcomings, and it's that top end. And you take that car to a place like Monza, and that's really, really going to be exploited.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how's Monza on the tires. It's not necessarily a very high deg track, I wouldn't imagine, huh?
I don't remember it being, but everything's out the window with these new cars.
That's true.
Everything's different. I say everything. Some things, some tracks that are just notoriously hard on tires. It doesn't matter what car you put on there. But then there's some of them that it's kind of just, it was always this previously, but these cars react different. These tires. So we'll see with that one.
Yeah. While we're talking about Mercedes, I want to address something, man, that normally I wouldn't even give it time, but it has received an insane amount of traction. I guess mostly just from fans, but the fact that this is being brought up is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. But a lot of people saying that Red Bull used Yuki Tsunoda in order to stage that VSC to stop Mercedes from winning. Let's get two things out the way. Let's get two things out the way real quick. Number one, I do not feel that Mercedes was going to win that race either way. Number two, why in the hell would Red Bull risk doing that over one stupid race where they are dominating the championship and get disqualified from that championship if that was even able to be proven? Why would they risk that over a second place?
Yeah. Over 7 points.
Like, I want to know why all these people that say this, like, give me a reason why they would do it. Aside and like, oh, because they can't stand to see Mercedes win doesn't count. Because that's not it.
Yeah. Dude, it's completely ridiculous. There is no.
I hadn't been on social hardly at all today. Which team was it?
Yeah, I hadn't seen that. But again, yeah, I hadn't really today either. But I mean, yeah, it's completely ridiculous that they would try to do that, and there is no basis for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, look, I mean, like I said, you said it was AlphaTauri. It got an insane amount of traction. Like, I saw it on, when was it? It might have been Sunday night when it started. And it was like everywhere you looked, man. All these accusations. It's like, bro, come on. Like at this point, Max wouldn't care about a second place. Like he'd still have the same smile. Like obviously, he wanted to win his home race, but like, come on, man. That dude ain't. Red Bull ain't throwing this championship away over one stupid race.
No, absolutely not. What you switching to there? It looks like a single barrel.
This is an Old Forester single barrel, Gulf Coast Spirit Society. I've been having it for quite a while. We might be doing a kill on this one. It's all right.
I will not be joining you on an Old Forester single barrel tonight.
This is not a barrel proof.
No, I know. I'm just saying on an Old Forester single barrel, I will not be joining you because the only one I have is the barrel proof. And I'm not going into that dragon's breath tonight.
Right. Sweet. Appreciate that, Twan. I'm going to check it out here in a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, I'm telling, like, I guess I feel like you're right. It is kind of ridiculous that they would acknowledge it. But at the same time, like, it kind of freaked me out how much traction it was getting after the race. And it's like, I just can't see it. You know, if you want to look at why the race that Hamilton didn't win the race, I mean, you don't have to look any further than
the
fact that
he didn't have the
car
pace.
is not good enough.
Yeah,
you know, they strategied it to the T, and they set it up to where Max would have had to pass both of them in order to do it on a regular circumstance. Yep. And that's all you can do. But I mean, Max was going to do it, you know.
It was inevitable.
Yeah. I mean, look at his pace, man. It was going to happen.
Yeah.
And you know, then there's this other rhetoric of, oh, I can't believe Russell's not a team player and this and that. Like, bro, come on. Russell has no freaking reason to be a team player at this point.
Well, what were they expecting him to do? Just sit behind Lewis and just putt around? Like, come on,
to block Max.
Ridiculous.
But
he
here's
was on
the thing:
fresh softs. Hamilton was on used mediums, old mediums, and he had the pace. Like that's
no.
ridiculous.
Like a lot of people are pissed off because he chose to pit and get fresh softs and give up that track position to Max.
Well, he was smart enough to know that Max was going to get him one way or another. So at least get back out there on some fresh softs.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
having Russell in between Lewis and Max was not going to change the outcome.
No, it would have done nothing.
Yeah.
Except, I'll tell you what it would have done is neither one of them would have probably been on the podium.
Correct.
Maybe one, but they're definitely not in second place.
No.
Maybe Lewis grabs third.
Possibly. More than likely.
Yeah. Lewis
more than likely
one
of them would have had third. Probably Lewis had they both stayed out. Yeah.
So you would have had third and fourth opposed to. Was it? Yeah, third and fourth opposed to second and fourth.
Yeah.
I mean, look, George made the right call, whether people like it or not.
Oh yeah.
If you want to blame somebody, blame the team for once again not giving Lewis a chance on equal tires. Like, if y'all think y'all had the pace, give him equal tires and let them go race for it and see if Lewis can hang. See if Lewis can keep up and maybe put a pass on Max.
The situation, almost to the T, seems very familiar.
Yeah.
And then bitch about it afterwards. Like, come on. We've seen this before.
I mean, man, just like I don't get it. I don't get how that is Russell's responsibility to protect Hamilton.
Yeah.
When
not in this instance, anyway.
Bro, look what Max did on the restart.
There is a time when, you should play the team game and help out your teammate. But this was not the time nor the place for that. It was not needed. If it's, if you're talking,
if it's championship related,
right? If you're talking, allowing your teammate to get the win because he's in contention for the championship and every single point matters, and you are not in contention for that, yes, by all means, stay out. Make that car wider than the damn thing already is and try to help your teammate. But this was not that situation.
Exactly. And look, how long did it take Max into the restart lap to pass Lewis?
10 feet.
Okay. If they leave Russell out there, chances are that's exactly what happens to him. And Max may even be going for Lewis in the turn one.
Yeah. Well, let's back up just a second talking about how quickly he passed Hamilton. Lewis made a bad call on that restart as well. That allowed that.
Very much
so. He very, very much could have put up a much larger fight. It probably wouldn't have lasted more than a lap at best. But he took off
way too early.
Like probably entry to the last corner, maybe halfway. Yeah. Like, dude, you just gave the car with the longest legs, or not the longest, but way longer legs than your car. You just gave him as long of a run as you damn near could have.
Right.
You could have held that speed until freaking start finish. And then you have, I forget what the distance was to turn one, but not enough time for the Red Bull to really stretch its legs and get a tow from you.
Right. If you got a legit jump on them.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about that.
That's the thing. Like, where he did it, even if he did get a jump on him, it was a long enough stretch where Max would just ran him down.
Yeah.
By the time they crossed the line.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Dude, I mean, yeah, and that worked out perfectly. I mean, when they crossed the line, dude, he was what, halfway up Lewis's car?
Yeah.
I mean, couldn't have timed it more perfectly. And that's the decisions that were made, and here's the result. So learn from it.
Word.
Do better next time.
So, all right. Look, all in all, it was an exciting race because there was kind of always something going on and something changing, It was very where you're sitting there trying to piece these strategies together as you're watching them.
Yep.
And you're like, all right, well, look, Mercedes is looking good here. They're going to make Max earn it. That's what I'm thinking. And, the way it played out, he was able to keep his position, but at that point in time when he pitted until later, the next safety car.
Yeah.
But yeah. Alpine, Fernando doing his thing, man. Finished P6.
Yep.
Right behind Checo, boy.
What was the gap there?
0.5.
Let's see. Where are we at here? Where are we at? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong chart. That's why. Yeah.
0.5. And then Lando was about 0.5 behind that.
Yeah. 5.5, almost 6.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, Lando had a good race. Danny Rick had probably his worst race of the season.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think it's safe to say he did not respond well to all the current events like we we hoped he would.
Yeah, definitely not.
Esteban really didn't have that great of a race. He I don't know, man. He really didn't do anything. He was just kind of there. And kind of ran that car where it was,
Yeah, I mean nothing spectacular, nothing stupid, nothing bringing any attention to himself, good or bad.
Right. Looking here. Yeah, Stroll with some points.
Yep.
That car didn't look too bad. Seb kind of had a bumpy race, but didn't really look too bad.
Yeah.
Mick drove a very good race. But
yeah, nothing fantastic on the results, but drove a good race.
He had a bad pit stop. And he got absolutely hosed with the safety car with when he pitted.
Yep.
So had that not happened, he'd have probably went up in the points.
Yeah.
But he drove the race too. I mean, I don't know if everybody just saw it or not, but that pass that he put on Seb was, I mean, that was some high level freaking driving, dude.
Oh, it was, man. It was beautiful.
The point in which he did it, that was impressive.
Yep.
Okay, Mag, he was kind of all over the place. Yeah, Seb looked rough, but it's kind of a wild weekend, man. A lot of stuff going on. Obviously the front looked like the front always does. And then the Alpines and the McLarens and then kind of everybody else.
Yep.
One thing I wanted to talk about was the freaking pit lane.
And how much it sucks.
Well,
how small it is.
It's incredibly small, dude. And, there's a number of instances, and I've also heard a lot of talk about wanting a lot of people calling for banning pitting during a safety car.
Yeah, I've seen that where they talk about.
I think that's just ridiculous. That's part of it.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. Like, that's just the way it is and the way it always has been and the way I think it should be.
Yeah.
It's part of, unless there's a reason to close the pit lane, you can take advantage of that.
Yeah. And I mean, if they announce the safety car right as you're coming up to pit lane entry and you can dip in there before the pack bunches up, but while everybody's still kind of slowing down for being under full course yellow and whatnot, like that's just the way it works out. It is what it is.
Right.
I agree.
Now, I will say this. A little caveat to that is I do feel like if they're in a situation like this race where they are using the pit lane to pass the straight, you should not be allowed to make a stop. That especially it was especially highlighted at a place like Zandvoort where it was already an incredibly tiny pit lane, and that made things very hairy.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I'm 100% on board with that.
But I still don't think you should. It should just be no. It's like once the leader catches the safety car, that's when the pit lane gets closed. So up until that point, you could pit if you wanted to. And then once the safety car has the pack, it's closed.
You're just talking like when they have to use the pit lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like honestly, after that point, when in a normal situation, it does you no good because you're going to plummet down. You're going to go to last.
Right.
But like in a situation like this time when they're using it, you don't lose anything except for 3 seconds to where if you gap yourself right, you come back out in the same spot.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's things that can be done to alleviate some of the issues, but just closing the pit lane when a full course yellow happens is dumb.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that at all. And then, I mean, what you're doing is you're going to just create even more chaos in the pit lane, because once you open the pit lane, when everybody's already stacked up behind the safety car, you open the pit lane, and then it becomes complete chaos, because now the only way to benefit from that safety car pit stop is in the pit box. Like you and 10 other people come in at the exact same time, and everybody's scrambling, trying to get out and get down the pit lane to make the pass actually in the pit lane, not just capitalizing on the time gained or lost right there.
Well, dude, I mean, you look at something like that. Like, let's say they were to do that, okay? and you would have that would have a massive, massive impact on the championship. Because let's say, like, I'm gonna pull the results from this race. Let's say Albon, he finished 30 seconds behind Max. Maybe this race is a bad one because of how short the pit lane is, but let's just say, for a round number, say your total pit time is 30 seconds, right? From entrance to exit. In a situation like this, they had like 12 laps. How many laps left after the safety car?
That was what, like 57? So it would have been, what, 15 laps?
15 to 20, somewhere in there. So basically, let's say Albon would have stopped right before the safety car came out, been in his normal place in the pecking order, and nobody else in front of him had hit that. He was the first one in that rotation for the second round of stops. Then that safety car comes out, and you can't pit during that safety car. Now they bunched up, and everybody has to pit right after that safety car. And he goes through the front and puts a 30-second gap between him and the field. And he could wind up winning that race. Somebody who wasn't even supposed to be in the points.
Well, he wouldn't get a 30-second gap, but he might get shuffled right to the front. Because
because
I mean,
like,
you're
I'm
talking,
saying if you're closed,
you're talking
like if they were to close,
you're talking it being closed the entire time the safety car is out.
That's
that's
what I'm
never
talking
how
about.
if they were to close the pit lane, it wouldn't be done like that. It would be, if they were to do that, it would be done like how it is in other forms of racing, NASCAR, or IndyCar, where the pit lane gets closed immediately, but then while they're still behind the safety car and the pack is all bunched up, it gets opened.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's utter chaos.
I'm saying that's
Yeah.
if it was to get closed and something like that was
that's
to
what
get
I'm
done,
saying. Like that's
how it would be done. It wouldn't get closed the
but that's even
entire
more
time that
ridiculous.
you're out.
That's even more ridiculous because of what they say what they say is the problem with it.
Well,
Like
it's all ridiculous. It better not happen.
You know, like with NASCAR and IndyCar, the pit lanes are ginormous.
Yeah.
You know, like the pit lane is like a international airport airstrip.
Mm-hmm.
Or runway.
Pretty much.
I mean, they're freaking huge. Yep. But, you know, I mean, that's just part of the game.
Agreed. I mean, sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it's great. You know, it's all just kind of luck of the draw on when the safety car gets called out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. What are we going to switch to? What am I going to drink? You know what? I don't like how little there is left in this bottle, but it's been a while. So
going to the new riff.
You say
little, like how little is left in there?
There you go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Gonna go to the Virginia Bourbon Lovers New Riff Barrel Pick. Oof. It's only one pour left in there. God, and this is such a good bottle. 106 proof New Riff single barrel pick.
But man, I can't see Max losing.
barring some huge catastrophic.
No. I don't mean the championship. That's freaking done. Like at this point, whatever Ferrari's struggles are at the moment, they don't seem to have the pace throughout the entire race. I'm literally saying I don't see Max losing another race.
Barring some huge breakthrough by Ferrari or Mercedes or whatnot. Yeah, I agree. And the path that we've been on doesn't really lend you to have much confidence that either of them are going to have some massive breakthrough in pace.
No, that's not. I don't believe that statement, because Ferrari's shown that in terms of the car this year, they've been pretty on top of it. And then when a problem arises, they've been pretty sharp to fix it. So
yeah, but as a whole, they have not had the race pace.
That's not true.
They more times than not.
No, that's not true either.
Had the race pace.
It's just a lot of the times that they were fine and even dominant on pace, their engine blew up or the strategy screwed them. But for the majority of the season, they've had the pace. The pace wasn't the issue.
Not here recently.
I know. I'm not just talking about recently. I'm talking about as a whole this year. When it comes to the performance of the car, Ferrari has pretty much been on point. And they're running into a snag here. So I would still be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt in terms of getting on top of it. Because, and this is something new that we're going to have to maybe get used to seeing over, like in terms of like when a new formula is introduced because of the cost cap. Because you can't just say that they might know what it is that's holding them back, but you can't just drop the money and start producing all the things and introduce all these upgrades.
Right.
Like you used to be able to do. You have to do it strategically or slowly or whatever. It's a different ballgame.
They regulate their updates in a certain strategic order, which falls in line with the cost cap and all that. So yeah, it definitely changes the game on how problems are resolved or not resolved, depending on kind of where you're at budget wise.
Right. We've heard that it is, it's going to be a struggle at the end of the year.
Yep.
For some of these teams. So, is that something that maybe we're seeing right now? Ferrari just diverting a lot of stuff until the end of the year. Those last few races, and maybe Red Bull went at it, dropped a little bit, and it's just kind of created that gap. Well,
I mean,
it's hard to say.
I mean, if that's the case, if that's what they were doing, that tells me that they have given up on this year.
Well,
I mean, yeah, the gap
giving up's a strong word, but
the gap is growing. But it's not all hope is lost. Not yet. It's getting there.
No, dude.
Mathematically, but that tells me, if they were to do that, that says that they have not given up.
No, it doesn't say that at all. Because
it does. Because if they were just focusing, if they were just planning to bring stuff out at the end of the year, at the current trajectory for Red Bull and Ferrari, Red Bull is going to continue to extend. And then towards the end of the year, when Ferrari has whatever upgrades that they've been holding off on, no matter how momentous they might be, it's too late. And they know that.
Okay. But like, let's say they didn't, like, all this stuff isn't getting scheduled in real time. Obviously it's getting adjusted, but for the first, I don't know, 10 races, 10, 11 races, we were still looking at it like, okay, like Red Bull dropped a good bit of points. Ferrari dropped even more points, but everything's still up in the air. So from that point, if you're looking at it, and every time Christian Horner gets in front of a mic, he's saying, like, I don't know how you expect these teams, how you expect us to move throughout this whole season and have resources left to compete at the back end of the season and all. And, if Ferrari's seeing those same numbers, maybe there was an intentional thing to kind of like, and they're feeling confident in their car. Maybe there's an intentional thing to maybe backload a little bit. I'm not saying wait till the very end, but maybe backload that calendar with kind of like a flurry of upgrades to where,
yeah, but I mean,
you're strong finishing out the season. Because, dude, let's be real. At that point, race 10, 11, the championship's still up in the air.
Yeah, but okay, so you throw updates kind of consistently for a little bit, and you start winning some races. Guess who's coming in second? Red Bull, Max. That's not enough to make up that points.
Yeah, at this point it's not. But I'm saying, like, at that point it would have been fine.
Like
at that point it would have been fine.
If that's your thought process, then you have given up
you haven't.
On the chance of this year. How is it going to work mathematically? It's not.
But you're not going to make up that
deficit.
When it's a 100-point deficit, obviously you can't make it up like that. But before, when it was 35 points,
it hasn't been 35 points for a while.
Yeah, like a month and a half ago when it was at race 10, like I'm saying.
You're talking about backloading the back half of the season or the last part of the season. If that's the plan, that's stupid.
Jesus Christ. Did you listen to anything that I just laid out on that whole timeline?
All of it.
Then you didn't comprehend it.
It's too late.
Yeah, now it's too late.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying.
But you're not understanding what I just laid out, where all this stuff isn't done in real time. Like, shit is on a calendar. Like, this is when we're bringing these things to date. Maybe it was a strategic play, and they didn't foresee this section in the middle, them losing that kind of pace. Who would have seen it? It was a steep drop-off. Or Red Bull's, whatever Red Bull brought was essentially like a golden ticket. But I'm saying, like, nobody foresaw, probably, and not even Red Bull and Ferrari, the run that has been Red Bull these last 4 or 5 races. Nobody saw that coming. So what I'm saying is, if you're Ferrari, you're thinking, man, it's going to be very tight throughout this whole season. If we can stage it to where maybe we sacrifice a little bit of the performance edge for this small part, and then we have just like a plethora of things to throw at the car for the home stretch when it's going to count, then maybe that's part of it. Like, maybe that would have been great had they not thrown away so many points far.
If that was their plan, then that's a stupid fucking plan, because they have no idea. You can't plan on the back half of the season because you don't know what your competitor is going to bring the first half. And then look, here we are, and this is what happens.
Yeah, but David, like, I'm not saying, like, at some point you have to draw a line, right? Like, there has to be like, obviously, before the season starts, you have a schedule, right? Like, you're looking at a calendar and you're like, okay, like, these are roughly the times that we want to do this. And as you get into the season, obviously things get adjusted. You start learning more about your car. You start learning this and
all
that.
that has to be
And
fluid.
everything gets adjusted. But
which we know Ferrari can't do to save their ass.
This is true. But with that being aside, that's a whole separate problem.
It's really the same problem though.
Well,
that's what's cost them. That's what's cost them all this points deficit. And if that was the plan, that's also costing them even more. They screwed themselves time and time again on not being able to make decisions on the fly in the heat of the moment. And then if the update schedule is like we're talking about, and they can't adjust accordingly on the fly, it's really all the same problem.
But it's still, I'm not saying maybe they underestimated Red Bull, but we really don't know the schedule. I'm just theorizing that it was one way of looking at it, where if you're legit looking at the numbers and you're like, listen, if we bring all these things here, and here, the cost cap is going to be breached by the time the season ends. There's no way around it. So you structure it in a way to where that doesn't happen. And like I said, you couldn't foresee whatever happened within the last month. You couldn't foresee that happening just based on performance from the previous however many 11 races of the season. Because performance-wise, they have been what and what. Each car has had its little thing that it likes better. And, there's been reliability shit. But I'm just talking about pure performance and development of the speed of the car. They have been, I mean, look at every freaking qualifying session before pretty much Hungary and before. You're talking hundredths of a second almost every week.
Yeah.
So there's no way that you could have saw what's happening now coming.
Well, yes and no. Like we've talked about, clearly there is a problem with Ferrari's race pace. Their one lap qualifying pace is still there, but the race pace is not. Could you have seen that coming? No. But could you make adjustments? Yes, it's easy for us to sit here and say, well, of course you can make adjustments. Maybe they can't. Maybe truthfully the car, the whole entire design of it, maybe it's not just as simple as dialing up a low downforce setup. But from what we have always seen previously in F1, it kind of should be, So, yeah, you couldn't have seen it coming, but you could react to it and adjust. Again, circling back to their whole problem of not being able to adjust to changing circumstances. That being the bigger issue throughout the whole season.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But, I don't know, man. It's hard to say what. I wish we had a little mole.
Right.
That we could maybe 10 of them. Let's plant them in all the factories so we can get some real-time information.
No kidding.
But look, either way, at this point, I think it's fair to definitely focus your efforts going into next year. Obviously, you want second in the constructors. So I'm not saying bail on this year. But maybe diverting some of this year's cost cap into next year in terms of that development gives you that edge that you need and that jump start that you need.
I mean, anything's possible.
Because, I mean, look, I think it's a real possibility that if they're able to put some distance between themselves and Mercedes, you're not going to catch Red Bull.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that's done. Let's see here.
I mean,
Red Bull's at 511, Ferrari's at 376.
Yeah. And Mercedes at 346.
Mercedes at 346. So if you could put a little bit of distance in the next few races in between yourself and Mercedes, dude, like, it might not be a terrible idea to start diverting some of this development stuff into next year's car. Now, I don't know. Maybe it's all just kind of a rolling dollar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, being that it's a new formula, maybe like next year's car, and there's a cost cap, maybe next year's car is this year's car. It's just like you just continue on down the road with it. I would imagine the cost cap would restrict the way things had previously been done, where, you know, it's a brand new car every year.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, like, obviously you didn't start from scratch, but you started from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe this is handled a little bit differently.
Yeah, I do agree there. I don't think we're going to see that, what you're talking about, where, yeah, it's just like how you said it, you know, it's not a new car, but it is a whole new car, you know, like I don't think we're going to see that like we have previously.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was just kind of a rolling thing.
Right. You know, so who knows, man? I don't know what to think, but I know if they don't get their shit together, they're going to get beat by a car that's significantly slower than them.
Yeah.
In the Constructors' Championship.
Yep. They've got to, they have got to, honestly, at this point, and maybe they have, you know, I don't know, but I don't think it's the worst idea to quit setting your targets on Red Bull. You know, and like I said, maybe they have or have switched, but your focus needs to be on beating Mercedes at this point.
Well, you know what, though?
And extending your constructors' lead over them.
I agree, but at the same time, like, essentially, dude, up until like this week, really, man, like, no, not even this week. Up until, I would say, Spa, Hungary, they had a strange thing happen. But if you run your race cleanly, it takes care of itself. You know what I mean? Like, second place takes care of itself. If you just do the things, you don't have to, like, alter your strategy. Let's not give them anything else to worry about in terms of strategy, all right?
Yeah.
Like, let's not do that.
Mm-hmm.
So if they just, like, execute the things that they should be doing and run a normal, clean race, then the results will be there.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
like I don't think it's like you need to start manipulating your race in order to race the Mercedes to keep them behind. It's just like do the things that you're supposed to do, and it'll all
And
fall into place.
it'll all fall into place. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I'm with you. Yeah.
I mean, more times than not this year, when Mercedes has had good results, and not as of late, but before Hungary, let's call it, it has been because Ferrari has screwed the pooch so bad that they either left them within the window of opportunity or just helped them climb on through it.
Mm-hmm.
If like I said, if you do what you're supposed to do and execute it cleanly, you're good.
Yep. Well, I mean, hell, if you'd have done things you're supposed to do and done them cleanly, then you wouldn't be in the position that they're in now to begin with.
That's what I'm saying. Like, It takes care of itself. Like, you're probably 150 points, not 150. What's the gap? You're probably 100 points clear of them.
Yeah.
What's the gap to Red Bull? About 140?
No, I already went off of it. What was it? Like 511 to 340 something, wasn't it?
No, 376.
511 to 376.
Yeah.
So 135.
So, I mean, you're probably, I don't know. I would say you're at least 100 points better off at this point. And you got to consider that's taking points out of their pocket as well. Like, they're not sitting at 346. They're probably sitting at 300.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Roughly.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe less.
Yep.
Probably way less. Because especially if you consider the DNFs from engines blowing up.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't really factor in as far as this conversation is concerned. You can't really.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. But I'm just with that comment. I was pretty much just talking about the amount of points that they've just inherited.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, look. Here's the deal, dude. Mercedes has gotten it together enough to where it's no longer you have to have a failure for them to capitalize.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you're not on top of your shit, they will beat
capitalize.
You.
Yep.
No, they not capitalize. They will beat you.
Well, capitalize on
sure,
you not being on top of your shit. Is what I'm saying.
If you are not, yeah.
You're not on top of your shit. They are going to be right there.
Yeah.
To pick up whatever scraps you leave laying around.
So, I think it's going to be interesting. Look, dude, Red Bull looks as well-oiled as we've seen a team operating as any we've ever seen. In the Mercedes dominant years, some of the Ferrari dominant years back in the day, the Red Bull of the 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
And there was only one dude that looked like he could stop him, and I think too many holes got cut in his parachute throughout the season. Like it seems like it seems like Charles is just he was kind of on another level than Carlos, but he can't even take the car to that point anymore because of whatever's going on lately.
Yeah. And Charles is always one of those drivers that doesn't matter what happens this weekend. Next weekend, he's going to come back thinking, yeah, I can absolutely win this, and like he leaves the last race at the last race and moves forward.
I still think
Even
that's the
even
case.
even with that, yes, I think that's still the case, but I think we've even seen where it's just kind of worn him down a little bit,
Well, and like in this race, you had his engineer coming on the radio telling him, "Oh, we think that Mercedes is one stopping."
Yeah. The
And
hell does
then
he care?
well, it does matter.
I mean,
And then a few laps later, not a few, a good amount of laps later, they come on and they're like, "So we don't think that we can manage to plan C." So what that means is 8 laps ago, you said you think they're one stopping it. And which means we're on a 2-stop strategy. We have to push. But you were trying to manage in that time and you didn't have your guy pushing.
mm-hmm.
So I think what they were trying to do was manage to a point where they could get to softs on the end for the last stint. But they didn't think they were going to be able to get that deep. So they were going to have to stop earlier. However, my question is, if you're running a 2-stop strategy, and the second that you realize they're going to 1 stop, it's time to push. And we will deal with the tire. Like, if we have to bring you in a few laps earlier and put you on a medium tire, which we have available, then that's fine. But we need to be pushing, maintaining this gap.
Yeah. Well, but you see, and that all comes back to like the whole picture of what they are not doing right. They need to tell him that, right? Don't just come on and say, we think he's doing a 1 stop. As a driver, it's like, oh, okay, well, who gives a shit? What do you need me to do? That's the information I need as a driver. What do you need me to do? So how about, hey, they're looking like a 1 stop, so you need to start pushing. There you go. Now we're giving some useful information.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they didn't even do that.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think they made up their mind.
Well,
it took them like 8 laps. That's the problem.
Yeah. No. Yes, 100%. That's kind of where I was at with that.
But like, even when they came and said something else about it, they're like, we don't think. Like, bro, it's either you can or you can't. Like, that's not a position to be in, and especially with the amount of time that it took you. Like, if we say we don't think, that should have been in conjunction with that first call when you're like, Mercedes is on. We think Mercedes is on 1 stop. I don't think we can go with plan C. We're going to run the numbers and we'll get back to you in half a lap or a lap.
Yeah.
Like, and then he goes around again and it's like, okay, pick up the pace now.
Yep.
And bro, look, like we said, Matia's done a fantastic job turning that place around, but it looks to me like he's got one more department to go. They must have just skated under the radar because they were the least of the worries initially.
Yeah.
And now they're at the forefront, and you're not going to win shit if you don't get that addressed.
Yep.
Because for the first half of this season, you had the best car. and you came out of the first half losing by 70 points, if you want to call it like the true first half of the season.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Well, we want to keep this one a little shorter, being that it's kind of out of whack timeline-wise, and everybody's had long Labor Day weekends. So let's go ahead and jump into. Well, first off, anything else from this race that you want to cover?
No, I mean we touched on one thing we didn't really talk about. We had touched on it when we were talking about the pit lane of Zandvoort, but we didn't specifically talk about the Carlos Sainz penalty for the unsafe release, which is, in my opinion, is complete bullshit that he got a penalty. He hit the brakes to avoid hitting a McLaren rear jackman.
Yeah. Who's in a strange place.
Yeah. Therefore, that put Alonso having to check up because Carlos was halfway out and pretty much had to stop.
Yeah. Well, they said anti-stall kicked in.
Yeah, because he had to slow up or do whatever. Yeah. Right. And it brought on anti-stall. But, had that been a normal release, even as tight as it is, Alonso would not have been affected whatsoever. But yeah, this place is so tight. One mechanic is running around the back of the car for McLaren, and it affects the release of the car behind or car pit box ahead. So, I think that was kind of a shit penalty for Carlos.
I agree.
I mean, look, and here's where the gray area comes in, right? Was he doing that to avoid hitting the McLaren mechanic? Yes. That's clear as day. Did it inadvertently turn into an unsafe release with Alonso? Yes. So, it's that area of you kind of have to penalize for one thing, but can the penalty really be undone for the prior action? I think it should, but
right.
If you're following the rule set, technically it was an unsafe release.
But that's the thing. Like they say, they look at every instance individually.
Right.
That's what they say.
Right. Yes.
So if that's truly the case, that means you have discrepancy in each individual instance. And you can clearly look at this and see that this jackman should not have been where he was, or whatever he was doing, he was out of place or whatever. Like, I don't know. But Carlos had plenty of time. He gets out. If he doesn't do that, maybe he barely misses him. Maybe he freaking hits him and, cuts him in half.
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously, we think he did the right thing. And, like, the jackman who's going to release him, he don't have eyes in the back of his head. Like, obviously, if something's way out of place, maybe I'm sure they got some kind of system to be like, for somebody to communicate to him in some kind of way, like, hey, don't release the car. There's a McLaren in the way or whatever.
Well, yeah. Now, and one thing I've wondered, who controls that overhead light for them?
I thought it was the jackman.
Is it just when he releases the front of the car?
Yeah, I thought it was the jackman. And then because he's looking behind them.
Right.
To, it's on him if they release the car or not.
But he's also got to look at all four corners and the 20 other guys that are there surrounding the car. So is it somebody else that controls that light that's looking kind of more broad than just what the Jackman is looking for? I don't know, but nonetheless,
No,
you
I
know,
think that's in response to him dropping the jack.
it might be. Yeah.
Because there's green. There's green indicators for each wheel.
Yeah.
So I'd like for them to run through the whole system. Maybe I could find that on YouTube. I don't know. If we can, we'll post it in the notes at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Either way, I agree. That was a bullshit penalty.
Yep. Yeah.
So, all right, let's jump into some Monza predictions.
Max.
Max is going to win by so much they're going to give him first and second.
Yeah, right. Max, Leclerc. Who do I think is going to round it out? Max, Leclerc, Checo.
All right. I got one for you. Obviously, Max. I think Ferrari is going to have something for Monza. I would be willing to bet that this has been in development for quite a while in terms of this low downforce package with an emphasis on Monza, because that just means more to them. And especially with the showings the last couple years, when they became good this year, I think they circled that date on the calendar. I still don't think they're going to win, but I think it's important that they have a strong showing. However, I think that you're going to see Max, then Charles, and I think Carlos and Checo are going to have a coming together at some point. And I think your third place on the podium is going to be Fernando Alonso in that Alpine rocket ship.
I was going to say Alpine.
I think it's coming back to Monza. I think that middle section and some of the other stuff, you really couldn't bring that thing to Spa. But Monza, you can unleash it.
I don't disagree there.
I think
whether it's going to make it to the podium or not, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I think Fernando is going to finish in front of the Mercedes. So, like I said, I think it would take kind of a coming together of sorts of a couple of the front runners. But I think Mercedes is going to struggle mightily. And I do think that just kind of has the making for a Fernando kind of day.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
I think he's capable of handling that car when it's on the limit of downforce.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I think Esteban, you're going to see exploding those styrofoam arrows after the first, that are right on the side of the first chicane.
Not knowing how to slow down the rocket ship.
Yeah.
Deploy the parachutes.
Right.
See that thing burst into flames on re-entry.
Uh-huh.
All right. This ought to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. You got anything else for from Monza? I mean, we've already talked about it a good bit earlier on.
Yeah. No, that's it, man.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap this up with the usual quote. I'm competitive, but that doesn't stop me from being realistic. And that is Jacques Villeneuve, who's going to be doing a little testing at Monza.
Almost had to spit out my whiskey when you said that name.
Yeah. Going to be driving a last year's Alpine a little bit at Monza.
It's the dumbest thing I've heard. I don't know why he's doing it.
Well, and that's why I brought that quote out.
Should have done it in Canada. I can't
He
stand
claims
Villeneuve.
that being competitive doesn't stop him from being realistic. Well, that seems pretty unrealistic to think it's of any relevance for you to jump into one of these cars in a practice session. But hey,
Dude, how about before we go, we talk about the freaking shitstorm that's happening at Alpine? Like, honestly, man, I think all this stuff that you've seen happen with Fernando and Piastri and all that's going on, it's just they could see it from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the writing's been on the wall for a while, and this is the result of it. Why wouldn't somebody who rose through the junior categories with a team and had their backing, why wouldn't he want to race for that team? Now, obviously, the McLaren thing was done before Renault even offered him a seat. So it's not like he was picking between the two. He was essentially picking McLaren over Williams.
Yeah.
But still, man, like when all this came to be, you would think that he'd have had a little more, like it would have been tugging at his heart a little bit. Like, this is where I've been. This is the program I've been in. Like, I want that seat. That's my seat.
Yeah. Right.
And maybe been a little more into like let's see how this works out. Not, I will not be driving for Alpine next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like let's work something out here.
And Fernando's like, bro, I'm going to drive for the 9th place team. Y'all enjoy. See y'all.
Right. I think that's a big indication of what we might see next year from them.
I think his name's Lauren Rossi, the head of Alpine. I think he's pulling a Jerry Jones.
No, it's because that's what I was reading about with Jacques. It's Jacques' old engineer.
They got two like big dogs over Otmar.
Hang on. Alan Permain.
Yeah, but what's his title?
He's the sporting director.
Right. And look up Lauren Rossi. They kind of like split roles, I want to say.
Yeah, CEO.
Yeah.
At Automobiles Alpine and Alpine F1. So yeah, technically he's
from what I understand,
HMIC.
He's kind of the one that is dealing with the contracts of the drivers and all. From what I understand. And it sure seems to me like Otmar is taking the brunt of the heat. And he's just been ducking and dodging all of the fires caused by this. But none of this had anything to do with Otmar. he's being handed things to read and to say and responses to give, but this is none of his doing.
Mm-mm.
First of all these contracts were done. All these pieces were in place before he got there. And apparently Rossi can't, he just wants to be that guy that has his hands in it and controls it. And he botched it in a horrible way. And that's kind of how Jerry Jones went about the Cowboys for a while. I mean, his ego was so big and he wanted to be a part of it so bad. Instead of just sitting back and financing it and saying, hey, my hands are on it because I hired the coach that's doing all this. He had to get in there and tinker and pull an ego stroke. And Jimmy Johnson said, this is stupid. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And he cost himself probably 2 or 3 more Super Bowls and a run of irrelevance of approaching 30 years.
Yep. And
that won't happen with Alpine because they'll just pull out of F1 before that happens. But that seems if they don't get this ship righted, that seems the path they're on.
Yeah. Let's just hope they can figure it out.
Well, it seems like they're going to do it with Pierre Gasly in their seat.
Yeah, that's looking like a very good possibility.
I'm happy that he's going to be getting in a much better car, but I'm also now kind of concerned about where that is. Where that is.
Yeah,
I've been dying for that dude to get in a better car.
But what kind of shit show is he?
But what is he walking into here?
Yeah.
Am I better off just maybe having this one more year at AlphaTauri?
Right. Yeah. Let's see how this plays out over one more year.
Let's see. After next year, let me see how much Lawrence Stroll really loves his son.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have things pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait for it to unfold.
All righty.
All right. Well,
Monza next week.
Yep, that's going to wrap this one up.
This week.
We'll see y'all after Monza.
Catch you on the flippity flip.